So thank you all for being here today. My name is Mel Aclaro. Thanks also to not just the folks that put together ProductCamp, but also to all of our sponsors. So if you see any of our sponsors out there, shake their hand, find out about what their programs and the products are about. I know there is no pitching in this session in here today, so I just wanted to give that one little recognition for all of those folks. So thanks for that. And thank you all for being here as well, because without you, I don't think bar camps can happen. It is participative, so just because we're all standing up here doesn't mean we're the ones doing the presentations. It is also participative. Many of you, and I do recognize some faces, many friends out there as well, are yourselves also experts in your own right, and so we're going to be learning just as much from you all. Now, as we go along, there'll probably be some different questions that we'll have, not just for our panelists up here, but also of each other, because some of you will be speaking about some things that you know about, and other people will probably have those questions. I might have some questions for you. Some of our panelists might have some questions for you as well. So jot those down. If you have a pen and paper in front of you, make sure you go ahead and take some of those notes. My name is Mel Aclaro. Let me just name these folks, and then in just a few short moments, I'll let them introduce themselves a little bit more formally. But this is Scott Shang, Stacy Harmon, Kirsten Wright, and Cindy Ronzoni. Okay, and thank you all for being here today as well. Now, just before we get started, I'm going to tee it off with a little bit of a controversial thought for just a moment here, okay? And maybe this will spur some of the discussions going on today. But I have a confession to make. One of my, I guess I would be one of the folks that would probably say that I think the whole idea of social media as being this paradigm shift or this communication revolution, Scott knows where I'm headed with all of this, but I think it's a little passé, actually. I know social media is huge and it's big, but it used to be the case where people would say, well, we're in this shifting paradigm of this communication that's revolutionizing the way we do business in the world. And we talk about it in terms of present tense. And I know where that comes from, because just the way our demographic curve, we have a lot of baby boomers coming through, going through the timeline, and we have a lot of Generation Y, the millennials coming in, and they're hitting the timeline as well, and they're getting this little light bulb over their head, and they're experiencing some of the ways to do business and not in social media, and there's this little paradigm, and so for them, and it's kind of changing their thought. However, that doesn't speak anything where you have these 78 million baby boomers that are basically treading their way through the demographic curve, but doesn't say anything about the hundreds of millions of people that have already been in the social sphere and working that way for a number of years, almost a decade now. I mean, I know we've been revolutionizing since the 1990s. I mean, how long does a revolution actually take? So my only point is that I don't think we're necessarily revolutionizing or we're paradigm shifting. I think actually we've done revolted. I think we've done shifted. And this is kind of how things are working now. And so people are trying to figure out, how do we actually start making money, and how do we market our brands, and how do we market ourselves? Is it even appropriate to do so in the social sphere? Because at one point, gosh, people get a little snarky when you try to talk about making money in the social sphere, okay, or trying to market your brands, okay? That's all changed now. That culture is the standard, I think, the discussions about how to get set up on Twitter or how to get it set up on LinkedIn and what the culture and those kinds of things are, I think that's a little bit behind us, and where we're at now is trying to figure out what's the appropriate ways and some of the social strategies to be able to leverage all of that and leverage that crowd wisdom for our products, for our brands, and for how we design our products even. So I'm going to have some of those questions for our panelists here today, but before I get started, let me ask Scott to introduce himself a little bit more formally, and then we'll just kind of go that way.
My name is Scott Shang, and I'm mostly here to speak about my experience in the service-based industries and service as a brand and yourself as a personal brand. I'm in the mortgage industry, and we really had a tremendous change in consumer perception of what our product was in late 2007. 24 hours a day on the news, you couldn't turn it on without hearing that mortgage lenders were the devil, and so it really caused it caused me to change the way that we look at what consumers' perception are of our product, and for the last few years we've changed our business model and have some interesting experiences, and I like talking and sharing. I like talking about it and sharing with it. And I'm involved in a lot of bar camps around the real estate industry, so I'm pretty familiar with this type of an environment. And I love getting into different spaces and different industries and sharing, because I think by cross-pollinating some of our ideas and experiences, it makes everybody better.
I'm Stacy Harmon. I am principal of Harmon Enterprises, and my latest venture is Pixel Coaching, which specifically focuses on Facebook marketing for the real estate industry. I have 15 years of real estate marketing experience and come at this from a small and personal brand perspective.
Kirsten Wright, and I own Wright Creativity. And I work with mid to larger businesses on developing their social media strategy and kind of the training on how to brand yourself without being too salesy, which is something difficult for a lot of the big brands. And I've been involved with it for about 5 years.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cindy Ronzoni. I am a communications executive who has spent the majority of my careers working for major corporations. I was the 6th employee at Fox Broadcasting Company and stayed there for 15 years. And from there, I went on to Sony and then moved on to Walt Disney Studios. However, with the transition, I am now running my own company, which I announced today, called Social Spread Media. It's where PR and social media collide. So my participation today here on the panel is just talk about messaging and how important that is with any of your media strategies that you have. I think we sometimes worry about how we're distributing what we're saying, and I really want to concentrate on what you're saying. So thank you for coming.
How would you say we're defining the difference between large brands and personal brands?
I have a real bugaboo about this. I really think the large brands use social media as a promotional outlet and rarely want to spend time with you to engage with the customer. For instance, at some of the networks that I worked at, television networks, they were more interested in pushing out what was airing that night than caring what you had to say underneath. And I just read a stat this week that 9% of the companies that are involved in social media only have full-time employees devoted to that. The other ones are just tacking this job on to others in the company, which is not the right way to go. I really believe social media has become customer service, and you have to provide customer service now through that. And so Toyota hired 68 people to handle the comments that came in through their Twitter streams about their crises. So I really think this is undeveloped, and I sort of feel there's a few large companies doing it right, but the ones that aren't are the ones just using it to push out their message and not listening to you.
I'd say to go back to kind of the comparison between a big brand and a personal brand, I'd love to say that I personally believe there's a huge difference, but I don't. I think that the biggest difference between a big brand and a personal brand is the amount of money you have to spend. I think that the pitfall that a lot of these large companies fall into is they treat themselves like they're above traditional conversation and communication. They treat themselves like they're something special, when in reality, their consumers are the average everyday person, just like the consumers of a personal brand are. And so I think that the focus for a big brand needs to be to bring it back to the general public. And for a personal brand, they also need to respect themselves more and treat themselves like a larger brand a little bit. And they need to be able to value themselves. I think we need to even the playing field and bring them a little closer to each other. So the ultimate goal is just to have that conversation, as opposed to we're a big brand and we're a personal brand.
I think the term large is misused here. I think I see the difference between if you are the brand is an individual person or a person, which you can have some very large personal brands. Gary Vee, Mari Smith, some people who have really developed, Guy Kawasaki. I mean, these are very large personal brands, and so that all the way down to Stacy Harmon, which is a smaller, localized, individual brand. So I put that in that category as personal brand, and then I put I ignore large, and I put either a product, service, or logo kind of in the category of the other side. And I think there are differences between the two.
I think the vehicle of social media or social marketing is exactly the same, whether it's a large company or a small company, kind of to build on what it sounds like everybody's talking about here. And I think one of the differences as a smaller brand, I think you have more flexibility and you can be more agile. So some of the larger companies, I think, have their set way of doing things for so many years, and there's so much red tape, and the decision making can't be done on the fly. They're not testing for the right thing. So I think the biggest difference is probably agility in adapting to an empowered consumer-driven market, which I think is the shift that's really going on. Is I think consumers are being more and more empowered, and the difference between large or big companies is the difference between red tape and the ability to read that market and respond to it.